Hello everybody and welcome to another How to Win video for Arkham Horror the card game, the series where we help you win the game more. Today we're going to be talking about healing and understanding healing in the game of Arkham Horror, the card game. So Travis, I'm going to, normally I kind of lead these ones, but I'm actually going to pass this one to you because I think you'll explain it much better than I can in regards to getting the points across. So I'll throw this to you for the next slide here. So take it away,
That
Travis.
makes sense. So if you've listened to a lot of our strategy videos that we've made in the past, we talk about how healing is bad, and it's a common trap for players. Not just new players, but even experienced players tend to fall into it a little bit. The general idea behind that is that, as written on the screen, taking damage in horror is bad. Having your investigator defeated is bad. So healing, which undoes that, must be good. And it is correct, but it's not always true. Healing is generally bad because it doesn't get you any closer to winning the game. The game, if it does a card that does, like Ryer means it does 3 horror to you, and gets to put a Doom on the agenda, and then you spend your entire turn healing that 3 horror with something like Clarity of Mind, then the game just got Doom for free. You did nothing. I guess you get a card and a resource, but like, you spent your Clarity of Mind too, so that's not good. That's not going to win you the game. You're just playing not to lose, and you're not even playing not to lose. You're just playing not to lose slowly.
Yeah.
Yeah. We do cover this concept quite a bit in our How to Win Tempo video, which is the first one in the series, and Justin will include in the description, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, basically like as it is, it's just we talk about it a lot, and it's the difference between if you look at it as if you're going to pass the test as opposed to just heal the wounds from the test. But this is just the beginning, as we're going to get to the next topic, which is healing versus soak. So Travis, what is soak?
Soak are cards that you can assign damage and or horror to instead of your investigator. Usually allies, but there are quite a few other options for that now. There's like armor that you can take, and there's some spells that can take healing or damage and horror for you. But as a general rule, it's going to be allies. Um, yeah, Soak is generally better than healing because it's proactive. This is something we talked about quite a bit in our videos, and that until at least recently, we considered healing to be like just worse than Soak in almost every way. Soak, when you pay for Soak, it is generally cheaper than healing is. And it also, I think I'm getting ahead of myself a little on the slides, but it does something else.
I'll go
But
there too.
yeah,
We can go back and forth with this.
yeah, okay. So like Soak, you have to pay for it to start. It is proactive, which is better than healing, which is reactive. Soak you can play at any time that you have the opportunity to, regardless of whether you need it or not now. That means, if your monster fighter doesn't have any monsters they have to kill this turn, or your clue getter has a turn they can't efficiently get clues or whatever, they can spend that turn playing an ally that takes some damage or horror for them they need. Whereas healing, you have to wait until the damage and the horror is already on you. And in many cases, well, I shouldn't say many, but it isn't uncommon for you not to have the opportunity for that to come up. Maybe you fail an important combat check against a big monster with Retaliate. He smacks you for 2 hearts and a brain or whatever. You're running low on hearts. You have to deal with this enemy before, or like play around dealing with the enemy before you can heal it. Whereas if you had Soak, it's like pre-healing kind of.
And you might be wondering when you're watching this, how is this different than, for example, if you play First Aid, which you can play up front, then when you take damage, you can then quote unquote react to it. It's because when you play Soak, it's one action and it's just going to do that, while also more than likely, also getting ahead of myself here too, does something else. While with that First Aid, you spent an action to play it, and then now an action to heal. So Soak also gets rid of that as well.
This is true. Yeah, next up, soak typically brings some other kind of benefit along with it. Uh, if you're just purchasing pure soak, it's usually actually fairly efficient in the form of something like Dr. William T. Mailson, who's only uh, a single resource for 2 hearts and 2 brains. There's the opportunity cost of taking up your ally slot, but if what you're looking for is just damage shielding, like it's a very good rate to get it.
Hmm.
Most time that you're playing things that provide soak, they also provide something else, and the soak is typically a bit of a bonus almost. Um, and this fits into the soak being proactive versus healing. It's not just proactive in how you present it; it's also proactive in terms of the winning the game versus losing slowly, where you can play your beat cop, and not only is that going to take damage for you, it also makes you more likely to pass tests, which will
Hmm.
eventually save you actions, and it pushes you closer to winning. Same thing with the Holy Rosary is depicted on the screen. It gives you +1 brain, makes you more likely to pass your brain test. You can dodge various treacheries as well as pass your spell tests that get you closer to winning the game. And then taking the damage or the horror for you is just a bonus.
Hell yeah. All right, I can
Yeah.
see already as I'm looking into the future, there is the classic Justin spelling error on this next slide. So let's just ignore it and pretend there's an extra O in this choose. Travis, keep going.
Brent, why don't you take this one? You haven't said anything yet. Get you involved.
All right. So you don't actually have to use your soap just because you took damage. This is particularly relevant if you're using something that isn't pure soap, like a bulletproof vest or an Elder Sign amulet, because all those do is take damage. So you might as well assign the damage to them. But something like a beat cop, maybe you don't actually want him to die, and you can choose to put the damage on your investigator instead to keep that +1 punch. If you have to, you can always use it later.
Yeah.
With some notable exceptions. If you're taking direct damage, obviously it has to be dealt to your investigator. And if you draw, there are a small handful of treacheries that reduce your maximum number.
Yeah.
Obviously, soap will not help you there.
And that's even where like general game knowledge, as you play more and you know the scenarios, you'll like know like this scenario gets rid of assets, so I should not prioritize my soak over myself if I can like avoid it, right? Or if I have another one in my hand or something like that that I can play. That's where it becomes a bit more advanced, but this is also where like why soak is just generally better than healing. Not always, as we're gonna get to in a bit, but that's the big positive of soak as well. All right. We're going to go back to talking about healing here. So much of the healing in this game is bad simply because it is inefficient. So we have 3 examples here, which all kind of live in the exact same space, where they cost 2 to play, and they have 3 charges or supplies on them, and 2 of them take up spell slots, which is a whole other mountain that we're not going to climb right now. But for Mystics, that's very relevant. But then they also just have heal a horror from an investigator location, heal a damage, heal 1 damage, or horror from an investigator location. This is a very slow rate. So, especially in the past when we talked about how why healing was bad, it's just because it's just with cards like these, which were the majority of healing for this game. Like if you look at healing words, that came out in Dream Eaters, which I mean is like 3 years ago now. But for a good chunk of the game, this was the majority of it. It's just inefficient. It's just slow, and it's not a good use of your actions. There's better ways to, you know, handle it, which is like soak or just focus your deck on passing the test instead of running a first aid. Run a test like a guts, right? Because that'll probably help you not take that horror that you're mitigating with first aid potentially, right? So that's when we talk about it's inefficient when we see stuff like that. Anything you guys want to add?
There are some weird ways that you could make these things less inefficient, but even if you do, the payoff is still just not losing.
Mm-hmm.
Like you would have invested much more time and effort into making these not bad,
Mm-hmm.
and then the payoff is mostly nothing still. like heal 3, which is not negligible, but
Well, it's like I mentioned at the start. Like Wrong Remains will
yeah,
chunk you for 3 brains. You're gonna spend 3 actions to deal with that.
4 counting the Clarity of Mind,
Yeah.
like the one to play the Clarity of Mind for the first aid.
Yeah,
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 that Rotting
it's not
Remains is
good.
basically turned into your own little personal ancient evils.
it's even better
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, Travis, why don't you take these ones for the next batch of why healing might not be great?
Sure. Some of the healing cards are just unreliable. Medical text requires you to pass a book 2 test, which isn't difficult for most yellow investigators, but depending on the circumstances, you maybe end up drawing a bunch of curse tokens, or maybe you end up drawing the auto fail, and you chunk your friend for damage instead. That now you're down. You're like 2 actions in the hole, kind of. Because you gotta spend 1 action to heal them to get that damage back, and then another action to get them back to where you're trying to get them to. We got Kerosene. This card is like you have to spend an action, and an enemy has to have been defeated at your location this round, and you have to spend one of the 3 uses, and you have to exhaust it, so you can't just like pump it all out the turn that you actually put it together, and you have to spend experience and to put this into your deck, and 3 resources and action to put this card into play. This is garbage. So, like, admittedly, it does take it off allies as well, which has a little bit more utility than
Yeah.
most healing cards, but like, it's so bad, dude. And then we got Grimm's Fairy Tales, which this suffers from a lot of the same problems Kerosene does, and like some worse ones too. So this one's 2 resources and action to put into play, and the card to play it. It has limited uses. It's got 4 secrets. It
I
takes
will
up a
never
hand
understand that
slot.
part.
Yeah. And as a reaction, after investigator your location fails a skill test by 2 or more, so not only do you have to fail a skill test, you have to fail a skill test like badly.
Yeah.
And you have to exhaust it and like to heal 1 horror from the investigator that failed the test. Like
It's not even you.
your goon's like roaming around and he's like, I need brain healing. You're like, yeah, just sit here and over the next 3 turns investigate badly.
Yeah.
Like
And that's when the goon says, "Nah, I'll just play my kerosene instead."
you can find someone else to play with.
Yeah.
I do object to the idea that Kerosene is that bad.
Well, we
It's
know,
like-
Bryn. We know you're a believer of kerosene.
Look, all I'm saying is that if we ever play Mecha Roland with any kind of seriousness,
It's true.
I'm definitely putting Kerosene in my deck.
That's fair. But yeah, basically, it's just that these cards they don't heal you when
Okay, used it a little bit.
you want to heal, right? Yeah, with your weakness,
Yeah.
Joey, no doubt. All right, Bryn, why don't you talk about this slide here?
Because I prefer not to think about cheat death and how cool the card could be, but is not. So the thing about cheat death is that it costs you 5 XP to put in your deck. Why are you not putting something like Black Cat in your deck? A fair answer would be that you don't have access to it, but the example stands.
Yeah.
Because there are a great many 5 XP cards that you could play in your deck that will simply avoid the circumstances of you dying by being defeated by damage and or horror that cheat death will, shore you up against. Yeah, that's pretty much the issue with this one.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if it didn't cost 5, I think this card would be pretty all right. But as is, there are so many better things you can do.
Yeah.
Whether it be buying bulletproof vests or eldritch, like Elder Sign amulets, like you can do a lot more efficient things with the XP to stop yourself from dying than playing cheat death. And Strange Solution, I mean, it's not bad. Just like when you look at the other things that yellow can do with 4 XP,
Even
with
Strange
cards
Solutions.
also titled Strange Solution,
Yeah.
like this starts to look a little disappointing. The fact that it uses supplies and is a 1-costed item are like potential upsides. Like if you're really worried about damage, I suppose it's not a terrible choice, but like, look at the other strange solutions and see what they do.
Yeah, I think at this point, Strange Solution, the restorative concoction, it's not terrible. It's like it's fine, but it's the card you get when you roll it on Shrewd Analysis, and you're like, that's fine. It's guts and it heals worst case, right?
Yeah.
It's just it's too expensive for this to be your game plan to keep you alive. There's better options that we're going to be even talking about coming up on these next few slides. So
There certainly are.
I think that's enough. We're going to do a shift here, and this is something that's kind of even shifting on the channel here that I'm sure we'll be touching on here. But when is healing good? Because we always would used to poo-poo healing, but healing, especially in Edge of the Earth, has starting to become pretty good. So Travis, I'll throw these ones to you. Oh no, Travis,
Oh, all right.
My
Oh,
my
sorry.
stream froze. Just
oh no, I can take it. So
again.
you're good. All right. So healing is good is when it is incidental. So this is when you are just when you are playing the game.
Just let me in. You did.
Travis, he's getting eaten by the computer. Something's happening. But
He's become one with the Mecha Roller.
yeah, Mecha Roland's got him. So healing is good when it's incidental. So when you're just playing the game, if you're getting healing out of it, that's when it's really nice. So these precious mementos from Edge of the Earth are a great example of this. These now, when you fail a skill test by 2 or more, or you pass a skill test by 2 or more, you either heal a damage or heal a horror, depending on the memento you have. They already soak for 3 and 3. And they'll just like give you so much healing value by just playing the game. So you just spend 1 action to put it out, and then after that, it's just going to be gravy. Compare this to the Grimm's Fairy Tales, which in theory you might be saying it kind of does the same thing, but it doesn't have any built-in soak, so it's not. It's like both pressure. The Grimm's Fairy Tales is just reactive, right? Precious Memento is both reactive and proactive, so that's what makes it so good. It does have a very tough slot it competes with, but we're not caring about that right now. We're just looking at the card and how it's incidental healing and how that's good.
Yeah, you could buy a cheat death with your 5, or you could buy this and your easy marks.
Yeah, exactly. That seems pretty good, doesn't it?
Like, I know which one I'd rather do.
The cheat death, right? We have a call for backup. This is another one. So if you look at the bottom 2 modes of this card, if you have a Mystic card, you heal a horror from any card. If you have a Survivor card, you heal 1 damage for any card. So this is not something that you're like looking for. You're like, thank God I'm Agnes. I'm going to use this card to just do these top 2 actions. These are like when you look at the bottom 2 actions. These are when you have, like, say you have a rogue, like a Guardian card, or like a Seeker card, a Rogue card, and then a Survivor. So now this card basically says move, discover a clue, and heal 1 damage, all for 1. So you're doing something else, and you're also getting some clues out of it. Last one here is we got Wish Eater. When you reveal a Skull, Cultist, Tablet, or Squid Chaos Token, you get to spend a charge and cancel that Chaos Token to heal a damage and a horror. This is, once again, it's like reactive, but it's while you're just playing the game. And then it's going to constantly swip back and forth and just give you value for playing, as opposed to demanding you spend actions to do it or have very, very, very specific hoops to jump through.
The front side of Wish
honestly,
Eater is
this
the
one-
level 4 card. No,
Yeah.
just for
It is
frame of
level
reference.
4. Yeah, like these cards are all experienced compared to, or significantly more experienced than the cards we previewed on the previous page, but like even with the experience difference, there is a much bigger quality in these cards than the previous ones. And also these ones are all newer as well. Wish Eater in particular, I always forget that this card actually cancels the token.
Yes, it also does
Yeah,
that.
which
It
is
also
really
does
good.
that, yeah.
Yeah.
And this is also, like, while we're talking about experience cards too, especially, like, actually, I'll go to this next slide because it has both healing words and clarity of mind. They've figured out for healing that the level 0 stuff is not going to be good, right? That's kind of like where we're sitting for the majority of the healing. But when you start getting to experience, that's when we can start to be efficient and do the healing. So Travis, now that you're back from the Matrix, I'll throw these ones to you.
Yeah. Cool. When it's healing good, when it's action efficient. Basically, when you can heal multiple at a time. The healing level 3 healing words, level 3 clarity of mind, neither of which are like really blowing the doors off, but they're both playable if that's something that your group is struggling with, especially with how you can divvy up the damage and the horror healing, or if you have alternatively other ways to like make them even more efficient, like level 3 sign magic, I think it is, that lets you do them when you're doing other actions.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like, if your teammates have come up with a big pile of physical trauma or whatever we were playing the Forgotten Age, then like boom, healing words might be what you're looking for. Yeah, and then Earthly Serenity is a legitimately good card, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Like a great card, actually. The fact that you can just power through a brain test in level 4 version and it's a brain 0 test. You have 5 brain, throw guts into the mix, this can replace itself. You crush the test by 4 or 5, and you get to heal damage or horror from invest. Like, you get to divvy up however you choose, among both stats. Like, it's so good, man. And you just throw it away when it's empty.
Yeah, and then also I believe as well too, because it's for each point you succeed by, you may spend. So I think you get to choose on a point by point basis. So even if you succeed by more than you want to heal, you're not wasting charges on it. I believe that is the case. I could be wrong, but I think that's how it works. So
no, I think you're right as well.
Yeah, so I agree. Like, this card is like gangbusters healing. Like, anytime you get like 3 or 4 healing on this card, you're like, okay, this is the truth. It's really good healing.
Yeah, this card it's just good.
Yeah. And this is where
card's nuts and Dexter.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like this is also where like we're gonna see the shift as well, as when we start talking about cards. Like, healing actually is relevant now, and I think Earthly Serenity is doing a lot to do that big bombastic healing. It's really carrying a lot on its back. However, there's a new thing as well that matters for what makes healing good, when it's necessary to beat your edge of the earth weakness. So
these are another thing as well.
Yeah, these are a new cards that are on the edge of the earth. If you have them, they can be healed as if they were a single point of damage or horror, depending on the card, and that's the only way to get rid of them. YouTube might be like, no, if you play these 3 cards, that'll be fine. But that's the way the easiest way to get rid of them. And they basically they slow you down from playing the game, and some of them can be really bad. So if you are following the actual rules and you get your weakness after deck building, you can be in a bad place after that. So it's like, I still don't think, when I personally deck build, I don't look for something that I'm like, okay, how can I beat my panic or my arm injury or something like that. But it's still now that if you get one of these, you can go into healing, and it's like actually like actively a good choice, because it can stop you from getting rid of like being slowed down by one of these cards. How do you guys approach these cards in your thought process for them?
I pretend they don't exist, and then I wait and see if I have one, and then I'm willing to. I'm never gonna plan for these, to be honest. I'm willing to just flip the coin that
agreed.
It's gonna not cripple me.
Yeah, it's like same with like
I'll build around it.
Yeah, same with like Overzealous and Doomed. You just like, nah, I won't roll it. I'm just gonna get paranoia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only decks that I've built since getting these weaknesses are Bob Jenkins decks, and I feel like that skews my.
Yeah, because you can just run bandages.
Like, you could play bandages, and that just kills half of them while also being a good card for the deck.
Yeah, or like.
And you can run things like, the smoking pipe.
Yeah.
And it's basically free because you're Bob Jenkins and it's an item.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
As a side note, before we go to those last slide for when's healing's good, look at the lady's hands in Panic. They look like werewolf hands to me right now, and it's creeping me out. Just.
Well, yeah, she's panicking, dude.
Because she's turning into a werewolf. All right, Travis, I think this is our last for what's making healing good, so I will throw this one to you.
Yeah, when else is healing good? When it is, I'm not sure what the word is for it. Not incidental. When it's the main part, and the other good thing is incidental.
When it's
Carolyn
dental.
Burns, she gets money for it. That's great. You know, if you tack on a resource, that's like tacking on a bit of an action to your healing. It makes it that can bump up the efficiency to be worth it. Things like Spirit of Humanity, where you can heal to put curse tokens into the bag. Maybe you care about curse tokens. Someone at the table cares about curse tokens. Or it's even like an engine with itself to keep less tokens in the bag if that's something you care about for a covenant or something like that. And level 3 first aid is like almost as slow as the level 0 one, but it can heal damage on a horror from investigator or an ally location, which can be very useful for the off turns of your fighter if you're relying on something like Beat Cop or like Greet Wagner or something like that.
Yeah. Definitely.
You know, if you're getting something else out of the healing, is where that really shines.
Heck yeah. So, in kind of closing for all this, healing cards have improved greatly since the inception of the game and are no longer always bad, but you should still, in order to win more, you should look at your cards that heal and ask yourself, is this the most efficient option for my deck? Like, if, apart from there's some few edge cases that Travis pointed out in our Discord channel for like when you would run First Aid Zero, like in Carolyn Fern and stuff like that. However, if you're just like, you don't need it, if like, turn it into Soak instead, unless you're getting some sort of additional benefit out of it that makes it good. Because healing by itself, especially at level 0, is going to be too efficient and will actually cause you to lose more because you're not winning more. Going back to that point, it's not winning to heal, it's not losing to heal, and that's kind of healing. Anything else you guys want to add?
Not too much. I think like the core point here is that you cannot win the game by healing yourself. However, sometimes you cannot lose the game long enough to win it.
Yeah, or
sometimes
heal yourself so bombastically that you can win.
Yeah. I mean, like that Edge of the Earth card, that one's wild, right?
Yes.
Like it can heal like 5 or more
It can heal
at once.
Yeah. If it goes really
like,
well, you can heal 6 on every one of your location.
Yeah.
Like, gather round for the party, let's go.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
Nobody's got damage on them.
Yeah, I
Your
don't.
turn, game.
I don't want to stop talking about it too much because I'm going to be talking about it again in the next video we're recording. So I'm going to just say goodbye to our patrons. Thank you so much for being awesome. Goodbye to YouTube. If you would like this kind of content and you want to see more of it, subscribe to our channel. We release Arkham content every day of the week, as well as we have a huge playlist of, it should be over here, of videos in this How to Win series that we cover a bunch of topics thanks to Travis's write-ups for this, and they're a great series if you are just starting the game out and you want to learn more. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good one, and as always, GG's.